Hey guys, it's Alexis, Sophie Leather. All right, so this is part 4 of the briefcase build. Today we're gonna go over attaching the newspaper pocket to the back panel, attaching the laptop sleeve on the inside, attaching the main flap, gluing that, and stitching the handle, all right? So the next video, part 5, is gonna be taking care of the front panel, attaching the buckle, and I just remembered we also attached the female buckle on the front flap. So the front flap and the back body is done. All we have to do next, like I said, is a front panel, the front buckle, and the gusset, and then we're done. But before we continue, you have to download the pattern. The pattern is the first link in the description to follow along. There's also a link to how to use my patterns. They're a little bit unique. As you can, I already told you that in the last, I don't know what videos, how many, I don't know, we're 4. Also, in the description, there's gonna be timestamps so you can move around and follow along that way. It's a really useful resource. Also on the timeline itself, it'll tell you different bullet points. You can follow along that way. A couple of things before we move on this video is make sure you check out my leather crafting tips playlist right here. There's a couple of videos in particular that you're gonna find helpful for what we're doing in this video. And that is how to saddle stitch, how to thread a needle. That's a separate video. How to saddle stitch, how to thread a needle. There's also how to get the right length for your stitch. The right length. What else? Where to find the thread, what kind of thread I use, what kind of tool I use. That's all in there. By the way, we decided to use Havana cigar thread, 0.8 millimeter thread from, what kind of, it's late, I'm sorry y'all. This is a nighttime video. What kind of thread is this? Oh, Ritza Tiger thread. It's the only thread I use. I love it. But I have, like I said, leather crafting tips. Just go through that and check out those videos. It's really gonna help you with this video. So with that out of the way, let's get into part 4. Thank you, God bless you. Alrighty guys, so we're gonna work on stitching the newspaper pocket to the back body, which is stitching the newspaper pocket, which is Echo, and we're going to be stitching it to the back body, which is Bravo. This is where we left off on part 3 of the build. We left off with this gluing, so we're gonna go ahead and take this off. So this is ready for stitching. What I'm gonna be using today and what I use all the time are these K&S blade 5.4 millimeter spacing, which yields 5 stitches per inch. So this is what I'm using. I'm using 5 stitches per inch, and I am using Ritza Tiger thread, 0.8 millimeter thread. This is a Havana cigar. That's what we decided to use, Havana cigar. 0.8 millimeter thread. I'm gonna be using this for the rest of this build. 0.8 millimeter thread with the 5 stitches per inch. These are stitching irons, so they poke all the way through. You guys gotta do me a favor and watch this video here. I go into more detail on all the tools and everything you need to stitch, how to saddle stitch, thread sizes. I have all those videos there I mentioned in the info, so we're not gonna bog you down with that, but we're gonna go ahead and stitch this, okay? So like in part 3, remember, we have to stitch this on first, no matter if you're gonna put this newspaper pocket on the inside and make that your laptop sleeve, or you're gonna put it on the outside. Whatever you do first, you gotta stitch this on first. Once this is stitched, we'll go ahead and glue the laptop sleeve, which is, it goes all the way out to the edge. So obviously, no matter what you choose to do, you have to stitch this first so that when you stitch through here, it doesn't go all the way through this piece. So you'll see what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and punch out these. I've used this for about 4 years, the same piece. I've already scribed my line. So let me adjust this camera angle real quick. So she is punched out. Let's get it ready for stitching. I do want to say one thing. You could leave a little space here, like not maybe, don't stitch maybe 3. You know, stop it here short on that side, also stop it short here. And then use a rivet and rivet all the way through right in the corner. That's how I used to do it. Sometimes I do that. Just drop a rivet right through there. What that does is, I would say maybe a 1/4 inch or 3/8 off the edge, both sides like that. And rivet that in there all the way through to the other side. What that does is, if you're constantly opening and closing this flap, those rivets are gonna take the brunt and not the stitching. But I want this to be a little cleaner, so I'm not gonna do that. But you notice that I've done that before. Just wanted to mention that. I hit the record and I forgot to do this before I hit the record button. Latex gloves, my friend. It's a secret to saddle stitching. 100%. Latex gloves, my friend. All right, so a little bit about this vise. You guys got to watch that video. I'll put a link right here. I go over this vise, the stitching clam. This bench top is movable. It's amazing. I love it. I literally stitch everything with this device. It has different, it's very modular. Anyway, just watch that video. It goes over this specific model and where to find it. All right, we're getting to the end here, and this color is absolutely amazing. But I want to talk about a couple of things. One being the time it takes me. For me, I'm pretty fast. Of course, as soon as I say that, I mess up. I'm using 5 stitches per inch. That's the stitching iron that I'm using. So it takes me about, on a fairly easy stitch like this, no gusset or anything like this, I would say 1 minute to 2 minutes per inch. This is about 30 inches of stitch run. So right about an hour, say 45 minutes to an hour to do this. So I've been at it for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes so far, and I'm basically 5 stitches away from being done. That's safe to say about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes if you're fast like this. Second thing is the gloves are crucial. They really don't protect your hands, but what they do is help you grab the needle. So you don't have to constantly have to grab it and pull it with a pair of pliers like this. So the gloves are simply just for grip, okay? But what you don't want to do with the gloves is scratch your face, because the oils on your face will render them useless. So if you got to scratch your face, use the needle like this and scratch your face. You don't want to touch your face with the gloves, because then you might as well just take them off. So constantly try to keep these gloves dry. Maybe grab a block of beeswax if they start to feel like they're slippery, and just rub your fingers on the beeswax. put your gloves, beeswax, or even run your needle a couple times, beeswax on there. Eventually that'll work its way up to the glove and make it nice and tacky for you. That really speeds things up. I know it's minimal, but it really does speed things up. The other thing is, I never went over how to do a back stitch to close it off on that how to saddle stitch video. So we're gonna do that right now. I got 2 stitches left. I might have to adjust the angle. I don't know if you could see. So I still got 2 stitches left. So my gloves ripped there, but it doesn't matter. It's where the fingers are at. The fingertips, that's what matters. So we got 1 more stitch and then we'll do a back stitch. Back stitch is simply just going in reverse, okay? So here's the last stitch. Now we're gonna do a back stitch. Back stitch, literally going in reverse. You're gonna be coming out of that hole, pull it out, take the right hand needle through the same hole. You're just stitching away from you now. This is a back stitch. 1 is enough for me. You can do another one, but this is where you want to decide where you want to cut off, what you want visible. This is a good side, so I'm gonna finish off on the other side. So I'm simply gonna take this needle, this thread, and put it through the back here. And I'll finish it like that. Come in the back, snip off the excess over here, because you're not gonna see that. Customer's not gonna see that. And then you wanna take, and you just wanna burn that off a little bit. Melt it. That's it. All right, let's change camera angles and show you how to finish this off. Alrighty, so this is done stitched, but we're gonna tap it a little bit with the mallet. What this is gonna do is open up the fibers and flatten it out a little bit. When I say opening up the fibers, I simply mean that it exposes the newer fibers on the bottom and looks cleaner. So this is done. Let's move on to the handle. Right here. Put this away. And let's take this off and work on it. So we already scribed the line earlier when we were assembling this, and we're just gonna punch the holes out and stitch it. What we're gonna do now is sand this down just a little bit with our 150 grit. We're not gonna bevel and burnish it, we just wanna get a nice even edge, because what we're gonna do is scribe a line down here, and we're gonna stitch that out as well. All right, so now that's all punched out, and I'm gonna stitch this. I don't think I have to film it, but same process. I'm gonna finish stitching this and we'll continue. You know what? I forgot to tell you something real quick. Take your bone folder and work it around the stitch line just to break loose any sticking glue that's there. You kind of want to rub it along the stitch line, not too hard, but just to break up any unwanted glue that's been lingering around. So we're just gonna run it through there. Yeah, we're good to go here. So no problems there. I forgot to mention that. All right, so we got piece B with the newspaper pocket stitched. We have the handle stitched. go ahead and bevel and burnish and do the edges on this handle. And don't forget that this is where the customer is going to be grabbing most of the time. So make sure you do a really good job on the bevel and burnishing on this piece here. Okay, so that's done. What we have to do next is take out your Charlie, which is your main flap. Take out piece J like in jump. This is J. Take piece J out. And your female buckle. All right? We're gonna go ahead and stitch this right in here, okay? All right, so just to confirm, this is already bevel and burnish, piece J, all right? This is already bevel and burnish. We're gonna go ahead and manipulate it and start this process of getting it nice and kind of formed a little. And we're gonna weave it through here. Now the way you weave this is, I'm gonna do it because I don't remember how to do it. I think you just simply go through here. And then you go back through here. I've seen a lot of guys do this and they simply just go through this top bar. But do it like this. This is how it's gonna go, okay? That's what that middle hole's for, is for that little nipple right there. So you can go through there and kind of grab on there. So a lot of guys, well, you can just rivet this in or Chicago screw with that hole. You can do that. I'm gonna take it a step further and actually do a couple stitches here. So I'm gonna show you how to do that, all right? You can go ahead and DC this and take this out. Just wanted to show you what that looked like. And I'm gonna work this way because that's the way it's oriented to me. So we already established it was gonna sit like this, right? Yeah. So what I like to do is put a screw or a rivet through there so I can kind of orient it. And we're gonna go ahead and scratch a stitch line, and we basically two, maybe 4 holes, and we want to start right where it starts to turn. All right, right where it starts to turn. Maybe go up like 3/4 of an inch, right where it starts to turn. And I'm just gonna mark 4 holes. All right, you wanna just go maybe no more than 3/4 of an inch or maybe an inch. I'm not punching it just yet, I'm just marking it and taking a look. And I'm gonna show you what that looks like. So you can see, I kind of start it right at the turn. And I'm doing about 4 inches, which is, I'm not 4 inches, 4 holes. So you're looking at about 3/4 of an inch worth of stitches. So these 4 holes are gonna yield 3 stitches. Right, that makes sense. So the very next thing we do is I'm gonna go ahead and punch this out. I'm gonna go ahead and punch these holes out. This is a pretty slick way of doing this. It's way easier to do it like this than it is to put this all down and having to run this through essentially 3 layers of 10 ounce or 9 ounce. There's not enough prong to go through that. So this is how you remedy that. We're gonna run a rivet. Sorry, this is a little bit long-winded, but this is something new I've been doing and it's kind of amazing. So we already have holes. We already punched this in. I'm gonna put this rivet in here to hold it in place, and I'm simply going to just follow through, just so I can mark the other side, so I know where to punch. So I don't know if you can tell, but that kind of marked it there. And what I want to do now is take an awl. It's going to take an awl and follow through those holes. This side does not need to be a perfect diagonal. This is supportive. You probably don't even need to do this. But this is gonna allow it to sit nice and snug without it kind of rattling around, you know? So what that did was, now when you stitch through there, it can follow that. So this is kind of a process, but like I said, this is optional. A rivet probably would be suffice. But now what I'm gonna do is put this on here, and I wanna make sure this joker is straight. I wanna make sure that this thing is nice and straight, because I'm gonna do the same thing again. And I'm pretty sure this is straight. I'm gonna use my grid on my table to line this up. That grid on the table is gonna help me line this up. And then I'm gonna follow with this just to mark on the actual I don't know if you can see that. Just mark that. So now, you guessed it, now I just gotta punch these out now. And like, same thing, I'm gonna use the awl. I want this hole to be a little bigger, because you're only gonna see this stitch. That needs to be nice. This doesn't matter down here. I'm gonna go ahead, this is nice and clean. I wanna leave those stitches nice and clean, those holes. But the other ones here, I'm gonna make these just a tad bit bigger, because they're going through, like I said, 3 layers of 9/0. So you kinda wanna open these up. This makes life a lot easier, trust me. Same thing back here. Kinda wanna open, those are pretty open, so I'll leave that as is. Maybe I'll mess with it a little bit more. The neat thing about this is that I don't have to rivet it in right now. Everybody's sleeping, it's a little late. So I can stitch it and then rivet it tomorrow morning when everybody's not here. So how this is gonna sit is rivet through here, right? And this is gonna sit just like this. And we're just gonna stitch and follow through those holes, all right? So let's go ahead and weave this like we did before. Make sure that those nice holes are on top. This is why you don't go more than 3/4 of an inch, because you're getting really close to that bar. So just be careful you don't go more than 3/4 past the corner of that radius there. So all that should line up. This should line up with this piece, and as well as down here. So I'm gonna put this in here on that rivet, and we're going to stitch this, all right? All right, truly, truly, I say to you that there is no easy way of doing this. I'm gonna start off with a weave job. What am I doing? I'm doing it backwards. You see what I'm talking about? Let me try again. I'm gonna start back here. I'm gonna start back here. I'm gonna go ahead and start the weaving process. This is what I got right now. And like I told you before, there really is no easy way. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that rivet. I don't think I need that right now. There just isn't an easy way. There's just no way of doing this. It's not gonna be easy. See? Oh boy. Yep, this is bothering me. 100%. I'm already pissed. I'm gonna leave it in the video too. You know what we could do? I'm gonna change this out for Chicago screw. Hold up. Oh, now this got wrapped around. Hey, this is a bad idea. So I have this Chicago screw that's gonna be better for now. I'm gonna finish it off with a rivet, but for now, just to hold it in place, I think the Chicago screw is gonna be the ideal weapon. All right, find the middle, and this is where it gets really not fun. We gotta weave through all these layers. It's just not a good time. But once you get about 2 or 3, or 2 of them, once you get 2 down, it's not that bad. It's just the initial start. If you guys got an easier way, yeah, let me know. See, once you get about 2 of them, look how easy that one was. Okay. Now what makes this easy now is the fact that we use an awl and made a hole instead of a slit. Oh, all right, well that was a bear, but that's what it looks like. I use a Chicago screw here. It's not committed. I'll probably change that to a brass rivet, but I just needed that to hold it in place so I can stitch. But that looks really sharp. But that was a good 15 minutes. You probably don't need to do that. The rivet alone might be good, but I like having that there so it could stop this from sliding around. But you probably don't need to do that. I like that look though. But let me show you what it did to this needle. Yeah, it was a little bit of a nightmare. Maybe 3 holes instead of 4, I don't know. 1/2 inch of stitch versus 3/4. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is take piece F, the laptop sleeve. We're gonna glue it to here. We're gonna flip it. Then we're gonna glue this panel here like this, so that when we come back, the back body and the flap's ready to go. All right, so let's go ahead and grab our glue and glue this up here. All right, so you notice that I don't have a radius on here yet, and that's for a reason. I'm gonna go ahead and line this up all the way to the bottom and all the way to the sides. Make sure the bottom is nice and flush. And I'm simply gonna take a pencil and just mark. Wow, that pencil. Yeah, I'm gonna mark here. And this is just for the glue line, so I know where to glue. So I'm gonna glue along all these edges here, as well as where it's gonna start up here. I'm gonna go ahead and mark that while I'm at it. I'm gonna start gluing here and there. So I'm just marking where I'm gonna start my glue. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that here. You guys seen me glue plenty of times. So all I'm gonna do, guys, is put a little bit of glue right here, like I said, and all the way around here, all right? And then we'll put it on. Alrighty, so this is glued up here, and this is glued up here, the laptop sleeve. That's glued up as well. So let's go ahead and put this down. Remember, you wanna get as close to the bottom here as possible. And it's not gonna be super perfect, but we'll go ahead and trim off and sand any kind of imperfections. I put it on a little bit wet so that it's able to move. so that I can move it while it's still a little bit tiny wet. That's a leather terms called tiny wet. You can use that if you'd like. I'm gonna hammer this down just a smidge. If you notice on this side, you have this leftover still. That's no worries, because once it's all dried up, and before we put the gusset on and mark our stitches, we will simply use the same tool for that radius and cut that off later on. That's why I marked it, so I can know where to glue. And it's not exactly flush over here. There's still a little bit of a lip over here. But before we mark our holes for stitching, we'll sand that down, or maybe even cut it with a knife. Just trim it a little bit, because it's not perfect. There's a little bit over here. Let me show you. So a little bit of a gap here. I can just trim that real easy. You know, the bottom is nice and flush. Over here is nice and flush, maybe sandpaper. So don't worry about that if it's not super perfect, but that's not bad for, you know, freehand cutting. All right, so let's go ahead and turn this around. And what we're gonna do now is, this way. This is the back. We're gonna do this next. All right, just like this. We're gonna glue it like this. First thing we're gonna do is carefully just double check. Since this is nice grain, smooth, we're gonna scratch this up where it's gonna be glued. All you have to do is from the hole up. From the hole up this way towards the top. Nothing below the hole. And in between the holes. And I wouldn't go anywhere past this. Don't scratch from this hole back this way. So in between this hole and in between that hole and up, okay? Scratch all. And I just always double check because I want to make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah, all right. Just gonna scratch a little bit, just so that the glue has something to stick on. And all this is doing is just holding it down a little bit. It's not gonna do anything crazy. But I'm always scared to do this because I wanna make sure that I'm doing the right area here. I'm scratching the right area. What am I doing? It's getting late, y'all. And then you could put glue here as well. I might do that. All right, we're gonna glue both sides. But if we're gonna do it, might as well do it right. This shouldn't take long. I'm gonna glue in between the holes, not below them. Maybe a little bit here. I'm gonna put those rivets in after I glue it. I'm gonna put those rivets through so I can locate things a little bit easier. This is why I put those rivets. Makes it a little bit easier to follow. See? Boom skis. This is why I don't put those two holes now. When this is dry, I'll put rivets in there, or I'll follow these holes up. That stuff tacks on pretty quickly. All the holes are matched up and lined up. Can't really put a weight on that. So I want to make sure this is nice and tacked on. As it's drying, I want to make sure there's no air gaps. I think we should be good. We should be good on that. All right, let's go to the outro. All right, y'all, this is the outro. So let's talk about what we did. We took the newspaper pocket, attached it to the back panel, took the laptop sleeve, attached to the front panel, took the front panel, attached the female buckle to it, the flap, I meant to say the flap, attached the female buckle to the flap, attached the flap and glued it to the back panel. We worked on the handle and stitched that. The only thing we have to do for the next couple videos, which I think maybe 2 videos should do it, is the front panel is left, attaching the male buckle to the front panel, and then the gusset, and then beveling and burnishing the edges, and then kaput. That's it. So I'm thinking 2 more videos, maybe 3, but the gusset is going to be committed to 1 video. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you very much. Don't forget to download the prints to follow along. I don't know why I said that at the end. It's late. This is a nighttime video. God bless you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.